Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Sunday, January 12th. We're going to take a look at MBOT today. So MBOT was a request to take a look at. So here we are. I haven't looked at it before. If you have suggestions or requests, please put the stock ticker in the comments below and I will do my best to get to it. Now, MBOT you see moving here off of below $1 back in September 2024 and sort of putting in a really nice long consolidation period here, and now has really popped off, topping out at 338, and then wicked down hard from there. Now here are the levels that I have on the chart. Let's zoom in a little bit. I think it'll look a little bit nicer. You can see how it's moving off of these levels. So I guess it popped up to 404 there at one point in a recent pre-market on the 6th. So yeah, there's that, I guess. But in any case, here you see it just sort of like streaming, or I guess screaming is the better word, like a fighter jet from 120 all the way up to and through 223, stretching 260, and then popping 304. Came back down, reconfirmed, and that's where it got that big push up to 404. Skipped a bunch of levels on the way down. Didn't skip them, but didn't sort of put up a big supportive fight. Consolidated here between this like 304 down to 260 level, so putting a lot of work there, and then really wrestling with that level a lot. You see it once again tries to depart toward the 304 and gets sucked back down again. So 260 we might see as, if it gets back up there, we might see it developing as one of these, what I used to call magnetic levels, where it just keeps popping itself back to it, whether it goes slightly below, which it is right now, or slightly above, which it, by slightly, it's all relative to how volatile the stock is, right? So a stock that can move like this, yeah, relative does mean that intraday it's at 260 and then it pushes up toward a 344 level and then comes back down to it. And so it would be interesting to see if, like I said, if it does put together another run here, what does it do at that 260 level? Does it get kind of stuck? Does it pop back above it and then come back down again? But that's sort of evolving as a little bit of an all-star here in the recent price action. So we'll see what that looks like. Now, the last couple of trading days that we had, Thursday and Friday, or I guess it would have been, is that right? Was it Thursday that got skipped? Whatever. The 8th and 10th. We see here it running down through and catching resistance at this 191. Building off of that, it tried to catch some support in sort of the after hours and then again in the pre-market, and ended up just wrestling with it the entire day on Friday, including into the after hours. So dipped a little bit below, but showing for the moment like it wants to try to hold that 191. If it can't and it dips down below, we do have this 149 on the chart. So percentage-wise, it's a big percentage away, but like I said, everything is relative when a stock is moving through huge percentage ranges intraday and then certainly day over day. It just becomes the case that you have these huge sort of percentage gaps, but that's because the stock can and does currently move so quickly. Now, aside from those levels, if it does get its legs back, we talked about the 344, I have 374 above that, and that's where I topped it out at the moment. I know that we saw that little pop that Webull had up to 404, but I haven't approached those levels yet. I mean, considering now it's back down under 2, 374 hopefully buys us a little time. If folks are interested, I can always come back and take a look if it's approaching that level or if it gets to it and through it, I can take a look then. The other thing that I was sort of curious about looking at this again for the first time, this is like a crazy motion that it's had recently, right? But it's actually not, in a way, not uncommon for MBOT. It's not like it does it every week or every month, but it happened back here in June of 2024, and it happened in December of 2023, and then it certainly happened here in like May through June of 2023 as well. So it happened a couple times in 2023, happened once in 2024. I guess it kicked off at the very end of 2024, so sort of 1.5 or 1 3/4 times in 2024, and now in 2025 is playing it out. But you see, every time that it did this, it couldn't hold the ground, right? These were very brief blips on the radar screen. Now, if there's some other sort of like fundamental reason why something is popping off at the moment, yeah, maybe that will be enough of a catalyst to gain the interest that will sustain the volume and the buying pressure that's needed to hold these wild, brief gains. But it is just really hard for a stock to pop like this and then hold those gains unless there's just tremendous continued interest. I did briefly go to the Microbot website because I was looking for a logo for the thumbnail, and it looked like they had something about like an FDA submission or approval or something. But then it also had news, I think, on Friday of like a direct offering or something. And so I don't know that, investors are going to love that. Yeah, 8.6 million direct offering. So, I mean, not a crazy amount, I guess, but yeah. So we'll see how much, investors do or do not love that. And if that sort of plays a factor here. I don't know if they've also done that previously on these pops, maybe. But that gets a little bit tricky. But yeah, I just did want to note, like I said, while it doesn't happen every month, but it seems to happen like every 6 or so months for the last couple of years at least, or year and a half or so. It hasn't proved out being able to hold those gains on any of these pops. And so right now it's drawing back down hard. I am curious to see what it does. And not only has it not held the gains, but it's put in lower lows, right? The low here was about 138, 140, and then it had this huge pop, came right back down to that level, and then, fell to about $1.10 or so, had this other little pop, and then ultimately came back down here and made lower lows at 86 cents, and then popped, and then came down and made a lower low of 82 cents. So it's interesting how it's, sort of sometimes popping higher and still making a lower low, sometimes popping lower and making lower low. So, I'm not saying that it's going to come back down and make a lower low, but it is just sort of indicative of how strong the pullbacks are and how sort of impossible it has seemed to be for MBOT to maintain these sort of brief flash in the pan gains. Again, this all may sort of hinge on some fundamental or strong repetitive catalyst that comes into play, great earnings, partnerships, something to do with sort of clinical trials or FDA, something like that. These may be sort of long running catalysts that can help provide the volume needed for MBOT to show a little bit more success in these pushes. Now, EMAs wise, it is coming down at the moment, at least trying to hold the 8 EMA. So, if it can do that, typically I would say that would be indicative of additional bullish momentum to be exhausted. Also, if you are a gap hound, it looks like there's a tiny gap here. Low of 237 on this day and a high of 233. So yeah, maybe there's like a 4-cent gap or something there. So if you're a big gap fanatic, maybe you look for it to push to there sooner than later. I don't know, but yeah, that would bring it up to about to fill that gap to 237. But yeah, I would be looking EMAs wise for it to hold this 8 if there is sort of hope for a sustained bullish push here. Not just because that's holding the price higher, but that's what we typically see on these stocks is when they run and they come down to support off of the EMAs, we want to see it ride the 8 or push back off of the 8. That's commonly indicative of further bullish momentum. It doesn't mean that it's not 100% of the time thing, but commonly we will then see a secondary bullish push, maybe that would get it back over this, 338 or what have you. If it comes down to the 21 or certainly the 34, I would get a little bit skeptical of the ability for it to hold. Again, also because of, given what the previous pushes have looked like. And each of them have attempted through and failed the 183, which is what it's pushed through right now. It's had more success over the 183 than it had these last couple of pushes. It's looking more like this, right? Like more of a few candles getting put over there. But you see here where it couldn't hold the 8, and then it just started treating the 8, that white EMA, as resistance. So certainly if anything indicates that direction, I'd be pretty concerned if I am an MBOT bull. But right now it is on the 8, so if it can hold it and ride it into this coming week, then yeah, maybe there's something more to be had there. We do see this lengthy trigger and fire. Really good call out here by the TTM squeeze indicator. That, of course, at the moment showing the bullish momentum dying down in the histogram, but that doesn't mean that it can't pick back up and throw a secondary wave. It is also catching support on this upper mid-range the channel right now. Again, just sort of indicative of the 8 EMA, like we just said. So we'll see if it can continue to push off of that. And it is, it does have a secondary option of support here of this like initial January ATR level of about 176 or so, which is where it's wicked up on this day and wicked up on this day from that level. So we'll see if that provides any additional support as well. You do see the volume has died down quite a bit here. So I do think, it will be hard for it to get another really robust swing like we just talked about, that like further bullish exhaustive swing without a significant pick back up in volume. Maybe it doesn't need to get up to here or maybe even to here, but I don't think that it can be sort of like languishing down here. I think that's going to be pretty tough. All right, folks, so I hope that you've enjoyed your weekend and that your trading week gets off to a good start tomorrow. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.